You're the second in command.
That's you.
We're live.
All right, 7:03, we call the meeting to order. Mr. Board, would you like to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Sure would. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Troxel and Mr. Miller are absent. All the board members are present. Mr. Board, has public notice been given?
Yes, it has.
On to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve prior meeting minutes, June 10th, 2026? So moved. Motion made by Mr. Billing, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Dowd, any discussion? Aye.
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 Aye. All right, information, summary of discussions from June 10th, 2026.
Just, it is what you've been seeing, just an opportunity to capture the discussion. So you can look through that at your leisure and let me know if there's anything that isn't captured properly. Now or later, I guess.
Any board members have seen in advance tonight going through this? Need clarification or questions on or need change? Yeah. All right, then we'll keep her moving. On to discussion. Discussion on operational expectations and results policies.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here, if it's okay with you, Mr. Rumbyhan?
Absolutely.
All right, so we've been through the, it's like a hot mic. Operational expectations, we got through all of those. I wanted to come back to OE 4, which was the financial administration, have a discussion about, continue the discussion about the local vendor preference. And then my recommendation would be to, I know that you had asked board members to look at the results policies, but now that we have feedback from the steering committee and the board has adopted that plan, it would be my recommendation, obviously the board can decide what they would like to do, but to maybe put the draft result policies that I had drafted on hold and instead have a little bit more of a discussion around what we heard on the 24th of June, and then take that information to redraft result policies that are centered specifically around those 5 pillars. And you can maybe look at some of the language that was in the generic ones, and we can apply it to the new ones and use that as a guide. But my recommendation would be that our results policies should mimic or mirror the 5 pillars that the steering committee had presented. So I guess that would be for the board to decide, but if it's okay, let me take you back to the operational expectation, or do you have a different, you okay with that?
Go for it.
Okay, so the memo on page 10 is the same as it's always been. I think what I want to do is draw your attention to pages 12 and 13. And I'll just summarize what's on these couple of pages here, but there was some discussion about one of the board members had some memory of some language and policy that talked about preferential treatment to local vendors, and we discussed a little bit what local vendors was. The indented part there at the top of page 12, I did find that in old board policy, and it said in the purchasing policy, it said preference will be given to local vendors when practical and in the best interest of the district. Okay, so that did exist. It did exist in old policy. Pre-Neola, when we made the switch to Neola, that language is no longer in any of our policies. Now, whether or not the board wants to add that to its governance policies is, again, completely up to you, and I'm not trying to sway you in one way or another. I just want to point out a couple of things to consider perhaps before you make that determination. One is that if we add that language, it will create some tension with our existing policies. Now, they're your policies, so we can certainly go back and revise those policies. But the three in particular, and again, they're indented there at the bottom of page 12 and the top of page 13. One of them is the purchasing. The second paragraph there, all procurement transactions shall be conducted in a manner that encourages full and open competition. Well, as soon as you start adding preferential treatment, that's no longer truly full and open. Okay, so some language would probably have to be adjusted there. Certainly can be done. The procurement of federal grants, this might be the biggest hiccup, is you may end up living in two worlds, because when you have grant money, specifically at the federal level, some at the state level as well, but all of the federal grants, they have to go through certain purchasing guidelines set by the federal government if you want to have that grant, and they do not allow any sort of preferential treatment when it comes to local vendors or preferred vendors or things like that. You have to set very specific criteria and then either have a bid process, which is strictly the lowest bid, or go through an RFQ process, which has a rubric that you can use to consider things like warranty and service and those kinds of things. But I do not believe, and I don't want this to be 100% quoted because I don't know with 100% certainty, but I do not believe that in an RFP on a federal grant that geographics can play a role in that rubric. I don't know that with 100% certainty, but I don't believe it can be. So if you do want to provide local preference or consideration, I don't believe it can be done with any federal grants that we have. And then the other policy that would have to be considered is 6460, which is our vendor relations, which specifically says that there will not be any favoritism. So I think it kind of comes down to what the board really wants. Are they trying to influence who receives district purchases, or are they simply trying to ensure how the process is done? I took from it, and I know that there were some varying differences, individual differences amongst the board, but I took it as a whole, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that it wasn't so much about we want to guarantee that local people get the bid, but we want to make sure that they have every opportunity and that they're fully aware of the process that is going on. And I'll shut up here in a second, but I want to have you flip to page 14. If the goal is the latter, we don't necessarily care if they get it, we just want to make sure that they have every opportunity to, then I think that can be accomplished with adding to OE4 what's in green there, where the superintendent shall ensure that the practices are consistent with applicable law, which keeps us in compliance with the federal grants, provide qualified local vendors with reasonable awareness of purchasing opportunities and reasonable opportunity to compete for district business while maintaining transparent, lawful, and fiscally responsible procurement practices. And I think the words reasonable are important because, as you know, we can do a lot of things and there will still be somebody who hasn't heard about it or says that they haven't heard about it. So if you take this mentality of we just want to make sure that they're aware of it, I think that having some wording in there that says reasonable boards, reasonable people would say that they should have been aware from it. Then it's up to them to determine whether or not they have, not up to them, it's up to them to put in their best proposal, and then the board and or the district can make the decision accordingly. But with that, I'll turn it back over to the president, and maybe you have to decide which philosophical realm are we going to live in so that we can draft language accordingly or revise language accordingly.
Yeah, I think this is much cleaner, trying to figure out thresholds as far as percents. I know that was something that was discussed off and on quite frequently, more than once. But I think the reality is it's 5% of $1,000 and 5% of $250,000 are two wildly different numbers. And I think this is a much cleaner policy, where it gives everybody a fair opportunity to bid and have the chance to be purchased from, I guess. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that there's two things that are coming up for me. One is just thinking about what was presented to us during the last meeting and the emphasis on community connections and the community being part of the school. I think that we're in the right conversation. And two, yeah, we have to do our due diligence to make it known that these are opportunities for everybody. Equal access is what comes to mind. Yeah, I don't think that we're doing, I think what we're doing is ensuring that we're putting our community's interest at heart in these policies that can sometimes pretty broad.
Everybody gets a fair shot.
Yeah, these policies are created specifically to protect us. So we have to keep that in mind.
I think by doing it, the pension board has laid out on page 14. It helps to eliminate any perceived favoritism. Because, well, you did this for this bid and this bid, but you didn't do it for me, even though we might have actually follow the same procedures. And then also just thinking back when we were deciding on how do we invest the money from the referendum, do we give preference to local or do we just go with the best possible financial return? I think that this will echo that same thought process, that everyone has the same opportunity to put their best bid forward. And if one bid gets outdone by somebody else, then they might learn for next time if they and where they need to land.
And most of the conversations I had with individuals was not so much they wanted the contract, but they wanted the opportunity to bid on it. And they understand the bidding process, so if they don't come in with their best bid, they know they're not gonna get it, so. But a lot of it is they just wanna be able to compete.
Super shot.
Yep. So if this gets us there, I'm for that.
Yeah, I agree. If we give special treatment to one, then others are going to go, well, then why even bother, to throw in a bid? So I think this is a very nice way of putting it with the grants and things like that, that you have to work around. You can't give, special treatment one or the other. So yeah, this is an easy way of solving the whole thing.
And just a tangential comment, it was a good exercise to go through because, and not that I want to get into the house right now, but I do think that there are a lot of things that we could be better at when it comes to getting information out to people, especially our local business owners. So I think that this will help ensure that we're going to make a commitment to making sure that they are aware and that they have an opportunity. And then what they do with it is up to them. But and I agree with Mr. Dowden. I was a business owner for 17 years. I wasn't mad if I didn't get the bid. I was mad if I didn't have an opportunity to bid. Right? That's really nothing I think would irritate most people.
Yeah, it does tie back to community connections. The pillars. The way it's written there.
So I know this isn't for action, but am I kind of hearing everybody is comfortable with the language on page 14?
Yeah.
Yep.
Roll with it.
Yep.
Their first revision.
All right, well, it technically
Progress.
isn't
Progress.
adopted yet, so it's a revision to the draft.
Yes.
Draft 2.0.
Updated draft.
Rev 2.
Okay, I don't want to steal your thunder here, Mr. Ambihan, but we are on that agenda topic. If there are any other As you've had a chance to reflect since the last meeting, you do have all the other operational expectations in here, 1 through 11. This would be a time to discuss anything that we want to come back to. If there aren't any discussions, I'll prepare. Well, I guess we have all the draft done. I guess I would just be looking for some guidance. Do you want the first reading to be at the next board meeting on the 24th and come back to the governance meeting for approval, or to come to the governance meeting for the first reading and then the board meeting in August for approval? One way or another, they have to come to two, right? Because they're new policies and, or do you want them to governance or to regular? Like and that's maybe something you can decide later, but if there's input.
I can live in either world. How do y'all feel on it?
I actually, for some reason, I feel like we should adopt them in regular meeting. Where, I don't know why, that just has come up for me. I just feel like the public is a little bit more in tune with our regular meeting schedule.
Have the first reading in the governance
I think
And
that's
the
what we
second
did
reading.
before.
and then have the second reading and
The
adoption.
adoption.
Yep, I agree. That was my first thought.
Yeah.
So then we'd be looking at, and following what you're saying, we'd be looking at first reading would come back on August 12th. And then the second reading and adoption would come back at the regular meeting on August 26th. Okay. If you're okay with that, works for me. Yeah.
Do we have any timeline concerns with?
Yeah. There's nothing really in here that's drastically out of whack from what we're already doing anyway, and anything that's new like this is just, there's no harm in being better at what we're doing, right? So we can implement some stuff.
Just playing devil's advocate here. If at the board regular scheduled board meeting, it's the second reading. And the first reading was at a governance, governance meeting. Does anybody feel like that could be a conflict? Meaning like, yeah, we're gonna do this in good faith at a regular board meeting. The second reading, but the first reading was done at a governance meeting. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
does anybody feel like there could be a
There could be.
backlash from that?
Yes.
Okay, to throw this out then, so do the first reading in 2 weeks and then still do the second reading. So do them both at regular meetings.
I'm fine with whatever. I
And that
think you've made
eliminates-
valid points on all.
Mhm.
Potential.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the timing of completion.
I can live in any world. Just wanted to throw that out there as a possible controversial
Yeah,
angle.
It'd be cleaner.
Yeah,
It's a lot cleaner to do
I
it
don't
on the
want-
same platform. both
Yeah.
times.
yeah. I don't want anyone thinking that we're trying to get something passed. You know,
doing something so cold and secret.
yeah, that's not it at all. No, actually the opposite, so.
So we would still do the public hearing and the second reading on the August 26th, but instead of the governance meeting in August, we would do the first reading at our next board meeting on July 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. Is there any thought, and maybe you can decide this later, is there any? I don't think there will be anything in the results policies that will force a change, and if there were, we can always make that change, but is there any benefit without going through the results policies yet and waiting and do all of them at once? I'm not seeing any that come to mind. I think they're two totally separate things, even though they're all obviously for the school district, but I
If
don't-
we find something as we're working on it, maybe we can make that adjustment.
we certainly can, yeah.
This
But if you
will be
anticipate it
working
being
policies
a
for-
highly likely scenario, then we might as well wait, so.
The only concern I have with waiting to do it all at once is it's an overload of information. Like, if just doing it separately gives people a chance to digest and take a look at it, maybe ask questions. Those are eyes, other times your rest later.
Sure.
And like Mr. Robinson
Valid
said,
point.
we're gonna be working and adjusting these for a while.
Okay, just plan on the 22nd of July and the 26th of August.
Maybe advantageous for us to invite the steering committee. I know
You think for
everyone's
the,
invited.
for the OE or when we get to the results?
Results for sure. But again, just to be transparent, like there's
Mhm.
nothing. So
Mhm.
as we're, these are the dates, just so you will know, you'll know. I think it's it.
Good on that. Okay, so do we just want to go through, just read the, Mr. Board, correct, I'm going the wrong direction here, but you guys just want me to go through what we want, open it up for, does anybody have anything you want to change? Is everything still good? Just going to OE2, just keep moving through it. Does that work for everybody or just want something different? Or
I am totally okay however you do it. If people have changes that they know that they've kind of earmarked or bookmarked. We went through most of these the last couple of meetings, so they're fairly fresh. You go through each one, that's totally your call. I don't have a preference either way, whatever's the most efficient and gets everybody's thoughts heard.
So we're on to 4B, correct?
We would be if there are no further revisions or discussion on the OEs.
Yeah, that's right. We're still on 4A. All right. Anything on OE1 treatment of students? Anybody? From our last meeting?
Yeah, and I should add that I have not updated these with the options, so that these drafts are not, they're still in option form.
Yeah.
So maybe we should rethink our timeline and I should bring them back to the governance meeting
Yeah.
in August and then do the first reading on August 26th.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So
I'd rather go
Yeah.
slow to do it right.
Get it right, yeah. Yeah.
we've already went through all the options and everything.
I have all the notes. I
You just have
can't
to
get it
compile,
drafted.
update the
Yeah.
policies.
I was so worried about the vendor one, I forgot about that. Not that with vacation and holiday, I would have gone to it anyway, but
So we can still do the same exercise. Does anybody have any buyer's remorse, want anything changed?
No.
You know, although maybe I should say maybe. I just have a question, and I don't know if it was in this one. We talked a lot about last time about the discipline, and maybe we'll probably get onto that later, when you were saying to pick the different ones that we wanted highlighted, but when the steering committee was up and they were hitting on that topic, it kind of sounded like, they wanted,
That was on the GCs, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
I'm just
Not
wondering if we
OEs.
rethink that. Or,
That's the GCs, correct? Not the OEs.
they're probably intertwined with all of them, but I think they'll really hit on when you start doing the results, if that is those kinds of things are
Yeah.
what you heard loud and clear on a specific thing. That's kind of the focus that you want to make this year, then that would be, now, it could still be a separate topic, right? It doesn't have to, if it's not included in the results, it can still be, this is how we want to see discipline in the future. That could be a different topic, but as far as these governance policies, it probably fits best in the results, even though it's intertwined throughout.
So nothing on OE1, treatment of students. OE2, treatment of staff. Ready, Tiffany?
No.
All All right, OE3, financial planning and budgeting. All right, OE4, financial administration.
That's the one we just looked at on page 14 as well.
Yeah.
With the update, I'm good.
OE5, asset protection. OE6, personnel administration. Keep removing. OE7, communication and board assurance. OE8, instructional program. Good. Okay, OE9, safety and risk management. OE10, legal and ethical compliance. OE11, emergency superintendent authority.
I would have you, before you jump to the next agenda, maybe turn to page 32 and look at R0. Because if you don't like the language in the R0 policy, the results framework, we'd want to establish that before we start building the results policies. So we might want to take just a few minutes while we're on this agenda topic, and whether you want to read through it, Aaron, Mr. Armstrong, like you've done before, and then have a discussion about, is this what we want our results policies to reflect? Because that's kind of this is why we have the results policies. That's the policy that explains that. So I think it would be prudent to at least have that discussion, so we have a little direction on where we're going.
So you're just saying, read this?
I think that's what you've done with the rest of the policies for the public to
Yeah.
hear and see and have a discussion about it.
There's no scenario on this, is there?
Nope, it's
So,
literally kind of the preface to the results policies.
on the results, we want to tie this back to our pillars.
The results policies themselves, you will. This is kind of the philosophy behind the results policies, which is why if I'm off with this, that will kind of change how these other policies are going to get developed. With this one on page 32.
So just do this one right here.
Yep, that would be my suggestion, just that one.
So, R0 results framework. The board defines the desired outcomes for students of this district through results policies. These results represent the educational outcomes the board expects the district to achieve for students. The superintendent shall demonstrate reasonable progress toward these results through systematic monitoring. Monitoring indicators and performance targets shall align with the district's adopted strategic plan to ensure coherence between governance, expectations, and community priorities. In context for board consideration, this is non-policy. Results policies define what success is for students. Strategic planning defines how the district will pursue those outcomes and which performance indicators will be monitored. The board may refine monitoring measures following adoption of its strategic plan while maintaining stability in the results themselves.
Before you even build the result policies, and again, you have some generic ones there that we started with, but this is an important policy to spend a little bit of time on, just to, is this what we're trying to do? Or is this what we're trying to accomplish with these results policies? Because it's all going to kind of come together with these results. And what the board expects from the administration, which expects from the staff, which we expect from the kids, which should reflect our community's vision.
Nothing really jumps out to me that should be changed or added. I mean, really, it's still to a 5-year plan. It's gonna be monitored through KPIs and targets and all these other things.
We can always come back and change it if there's something. I just want to make sure that at least we're all on the same page with what we're trying to do with these results as a general framework.
Because the follow-up results policies will be more driven towards like a specific pillar.
Correct.
And we'll tie the values and stuff back into those policies. There's 5 pillars.
Yep.
So we have at least 5 results policies. Well, 6 including this, but
Yep.
5, but you know, the next 5 would be encompassing more of the details, but this is like a 10,000-foot view, correct?
Yeah, the idea behind this one would be to ensure that when, we are all retired and somebody in 2035, not 25, is, sitting here and they're looking at the results policies, that they're ensuring that they're going back to what the community says in their strategic framework. That's really the purpose of what this is, to ensure that you're not just having board members 20 years from now come in and create results policies that don't align with the community's vision, and just get into personal agendas, right? That's what you're trying to avoid from.
I think the last paragraph is really the most important component where it really outlines monitoring indicators and performance targets. are adopted based on the current strategic plan that's been informed by community.
I agree 100%.
So,
That third paragraph is powerful.
And it also gives some nice direction. Gives some guidance in there, with providing language around how. I feel like the results framework language is a good place for us to start. I don't see any changes that we need to make when I look at the work from the committee and I think about how it aligns with this verbiage. I think we're pretty much spot on.
So really, okay, so I'm hearing that that's good, correct? For everybody? Just conscious. You.
I'm just trying to study that very last paragraph.
Community priorities.
Different avenues.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement.
Okay.
I know we're all in agreement. That's a good 10,000-foot view of what we want for our next 5.
The reality of how this is written, the next strategic planning that gets done with communities rolls right into it. There's no adjustments needed no matter what the community comes back next time through.
that's the hope, is that it's written to withstand change.
2036 or 35.
And I better do my math better. I don't know if I'll still be working.
We'll see how all this goes.
Just keep on thinking about this. What is Jacob gonna We're gonna graduate
It's
together.
really not
Keep
that
on
far
telling
away.
them. We're gonna graduate
It's not.
together, buddy.
So my question then, Mr. Board, is 4C really is what we need to use to define the other 5 policies for results.
Yeah, my suggestion or a suggestion would be that, or what I would like to see that would help me is if we could spend some time, which is what 4C is kind of designed to do, getting feedback from the board around when you hear pillar 1, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What resonates with you? What did you hear from the steering committee? What are the key things that we want to have in mind? And if we can have some of that discussion, then I can take that information and then get us a draft of what the results policies could look like with real information, not, fake information and generic information, real information based on what you as the board heard from our steering committee, who heard from our community, and then kind of intertwine those discussions.
So we're gonna forego the rest of 4A.
Again, it's
I
your
would-
board, but that would be my suggestion.
I'd like to make a run before roll for A.
We don't have to take action on it.
Okay, good, because when I saw the agenda, that was the first thing I thought. Was I wanna unpack as a board before we move into discussion of
Yeah,
policy.
and what I'm saying is, like, the rest of this 4A, we're just gonna need to skip. Like, we don't need to do R1, R2, R3,
Yeah,
R4, R5, because 4C is gonna define what those are. So for all intents and purposes, if everybody's cool with it, we're just gonna move on to 4B and then hop right into 4C. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, treat R1 through R5 as samples,
Yeah.
okay,
not anything district related at this point.
okay.
Does that work for you? You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna move on then to 4B. discussion on governance culture policies.
And again, I don't know if there's anything that we need to, this will probably, I'll keep this on here because as we start developing the results and start tying all this together, we're gonna wanna do an overview, do all of our policies match what we want it to do? But I don't think we have anything at this point, but it's certainly an opportunity for any of our governance culture policies that we've worked on 6 months ago now, to bring back up. But I just wanna leave it on there so I don't forget about it, but I don't know if there's anything that we need to do at this point.
Nothing from my chair. Anybody else? Got it. All right, we're gonna move on now to 4C, discussion on strategic framework and its relationship to the governance policies. And I'm gonna turn this over to you, Mr. Ford.
Okay, I'm just letting you know, because my phone says I have to let you know, that I'm gonna start this AI note taker, so I have double the recording and this notes as we have this discussion, because I think this will be key. And if at any time the board wants to go in a different direction, it's certainly your prerogative. Page 39, I've laid out the pillars of excellence, or those 5 pillars that the steering committee had. Now, there was more context to each of these that they explained verbally. That's what we'll need to discuss here a little bit, but the academic excellence, the school communities, the exceptional staff, financial stewardship, and community connection. It would be my belief that when we're all done, that the results policies would each align with each of these pillars, okay? And that all of them would then encompass the mission, vision, and certainly the values of what we as a district are all about, okay? So I would think that the process would be that we don't need to do anything specific with the mission and the vision statement. The board's already adopted those. But to keep all of those in mind, including the values, as we're building the results policies and having discussion around it. So again, if the board's okay with it, I would like to hear it for a couple of reasons. One, just to try to gather everybody's thoughts, but also I wasn't here on the 24th to even read body language and some of those things. On page 40, I've got 4 questions. Really, when you hear this pillar, what does it mean to you as a member of the board? Number 2, looking at the mission, vision, values, and what the steering committee did, are there particular ideas within the pillar that the board believes should receive the greatest emphasis, right? Those key things, because these are pretty high level pillars, right? So when we start narrowing it down, what do you believe are the priorities or receive the greatest emphasis? 5 years from now, if that pillar is successful, what would be different about our district, about our school, right? I don't want to get into the hows, but what does it look like? And then 4, as I build or draft the results policies, are there words or phrases that need to be in there, right? Like specific keywords that we need to somehow make sure that this word or these words or this phrase is in the results policies. So if it's okay with the board president, I would like to just take question 1. When you hear this pillar, what does it mean to you as a member of the board? And do that for each of the 5 pillars and just go around and have a discussion about what that means to you. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Have some discussions about that, kind of try to come to a consensus on what the board has heard, and then move on to question 2 and do that for each of the 5 pillars, and then question 3 and see how far we get. But again, I'm open to other ideas and it may morph a little bit, but that would be a strategy that I would think about.
Yeah, totally works for me.
Did we ever get a copy of the PowerPoint?
I was just looking for that.
Because I've been searching for it and I cannot find it. I looked for it yesterday too and I can't find it.
That's great information because I have it. I just didn't know if I didn't know what was shared that night. So it's not in the board docs. It was never, okay, that's good to know. I will make sure that I upload that.
That would be a good thing to reference back to.
Yeah, I'd like
Do
to
you
have access. Can you just? can you
Want me
forward-
to go and print some off? You want to take a break and I can go grab it? Because it might
Or you could just
facilitate the
email it to
discussion.
us.
Yeah, I certainly can unless you need it, prefer it now as we have this discussion.
I'd like it now.
Okay.
Those are on the computers.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't
What's that?
considering you. Not very nice.
So I was thinking the same thing in a conversation earlier today. But I'm not totally convinced of the relevance of it. Because all of that data that's in that PowerPoint is what made these 5 pillars. So how far in the weeds would we really want to go? Because my thought is, that's great data, but that's also what was used to do these. The data almost is gonna get into specifics. Or could even start getting into hows. That's my thought on it, because initially that was my first thing was, oh, wait, we have this data, we're supposed to be using it, right, to do this, but really the data is what built these.
Informed those. I still would
You know
like
what
to
I mean?
see it because I keep on hearing Mr. Miller say, Board, I want you to pay close attention to this. These are in a specific order for a reason, because our discussions at tables, the things that you're seeing here it was really loud in the conversations. And that was way too much information for me to take in, and I wasn't taking notes because he had said they were going to share that with me. So I don't remember it all.
Yep.
And I don't want to miss stuff.
And just to be
Yeah.
clear, are you referring to the data that was collected at that 2-night event? Or are you
No.
referring to the presentation that they
Presentation.
presented?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not.
I mean, both of them should ultimately be available. We want to
Yeah,
be fully
I-
transparent. but-
They didn't show us the data necessarily. They shared the PowerPoint. We
Yeah.
talked about the data.
Yeah, and they're.
Each presenter had a list of, prioritized list of what was discussed. So even though it might inform this, might be some prioritization of those things, but I'm okay either way. This is our first discussion on it, so we're gonna be doing this for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with the exact same thing today, Joe, I really did.
I always like to have something to reference back to. And to look at, so I would like it too, because I know in their PowerPoint, they put everything in order of the greatest to the least. And I'd like to be able to reference back to that.
Yeah, I'm really worried about my own personal bias. So I have to see what the community is saying rather than what maybe I believe is most important. I know that's gonna sneak in if I'm not paying close attention to what the data is telling me.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's where I was like, well, this isn't really a board thing. Like, what does academic excellence mean to us? It's really from them. But then I kept going back to, well, they did kind of encompass what the community said in the pillar, like those, let's use academic excellence for example. You know, ensure all students build strong foundations, grow academically, and gain the critical thinking and life skills needed for future success. Example, career, military, trades, college. The PowerPoint really did, under math, labs, and SADs, and the other ones, can't remember what they were called, but they really, the data that you're referencing was there that is put in here. So I mean, we can absolutely table this and look at the PowerPoints if that's what that's what everybody wants. So everybody has time to digest it and look at it and come up with it for the next meeting, or we can just feel good that all of those sentences that they have in PowerPoint are put in these pillars in a way that they're actually taking the weighted, priorities from the community and putting it in there. I guess that's how I'm trying to say it. I can live in either world,
Yeah.
because I thought the exact same thing, but I struggled with it.
Yeah, I'm struggling with not, and for a couple of reasons. One, we weren't in those meetings, so I wasn't able to hear the community's voice myself. I wasn't able to hear it. I'm trusting the community, which is great, and I'm good with that. You were there. So, I mean, and you were a part of that. So you have such a broad view of all that happened there. We have a half an hour presentation. That's all we've got. That's just not enough for me to make decisions that are going to be this important.
I think it'll help fuel the discussion.
Okay.
Definitely.
How do you feel, Brady?
I'm afraid if we go too much into what we think, we take away from what the steering committee came up with. So that's where I'm struggling with, yeah, I can verbalize what it means to me, but that might not be what the steering committee came up for us to the direction that they want us to go.
Community wants.
Yes.
Is there any fear that the opposite would happen? There's, because I thought maybe I missed something, but now as I'm looking at the PowerPoint, they kind of summarized the different activities of those the 2-night events, right? Is there any fear that there's something, because there's 40 pieces of data here, right, that are the top themes? Is there fear that this board or individuals get focused on a particular one, thinking that that's what it is, and it's actually number 36 of the 40 and isn't reflected in their pillars of what they summarized? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Those entirely.
Yeah, those were scenarios run through my head earlier. Now I want to keep our bias out of it, obviously. I want it to be what the community said, but then can we misinterpret something? I mean, at the end of the day, I think all of us, if that's the road that we want to go down, you need to be very mindful, tying what we're reading back to these pillars. Is it relevant? If yes, okay, great. Which pillar? If no, then you just need to scratch it out and not worry about it, because personal bias can come back into the equation no matter how you look at it.
And I think that's where the discussion will filter that out, if that comes into it.
Maybe I could suggest starting without it and just getting your gut reactions based on what you heard. And as you've absorbed what that committee said, Mr. Bailey said earlier, somewhat soft, but I heard him say that we're gonna talk about this for several meetings. Make sure that you have it available for the next meeting, but to try to get that initial, what stood out from what you heard from that steering committee on each of these pillars before you start really getting into the weeds about, okay, these are the 12 top things that Hive Mind event brought. Just a suggestion, just kind of get everybody's gut reaction.
One thought that I had was several years ago, we had these goals and we had way too many, couldn't focus on any of them. And if we pull all the data and look at that PowerPoint, is it going to be too much information? And trying to decipher through that to be able to just start our conversation with Mr. Gord's suggestions on page 40. And Aaron has a little bit more personal information from the presentation of being at the steering committee meetings. But I think we all had our initial reactions and perceptions of, from the presentation and the builders themselves. So I'm good with moving forward just with what we have.
Yeah, I think we can start the discussion. I would like the PowerPoint though.
I'll get, the public deserves it as well. I'll
It's
just,
supposed to be on this website, I think.
well, it is through the board docs, but I'm just assuming because I was gone, it didn't, that component didn't get added. So I'm glad you made me aware of it. So are you good with that?
Is,
Just-
do folks want to do a run through, or is there a majority that's really adamant on wanting to wait and look at the other, at the PowerPoint?
We can always start the discussion if we realize that, hey, I would like more information, go from there.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, we can start the discussion, but yeah, I definitely would like to be able to back or something.
Okay. Ready?
Good, you know,
Okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to Mr. Borg then.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm actually gonna get that uploaded right now because I have it sitting here. All right, so it is uploaded into board docs under the June 24th meeting as an attachment, so it's available and we'll get it printed off, so we have it. Okay, so I don't know how deep this will go, but my suggestion would be, let's just take academic excellence. Ensure all students build strong foundations, grow academically, and gain the critical thinking and life skills needed for future success. For example, career, military, trades, and college. When you hear that, what does that mean to you as a member of the board and what you heard from the steering committee? What's your first thought of what that is? If you want to, who you want to start the discussion, but I'd like to just kind of hear from everybody on what does that mean to you?
my first thought on it was the focus was on college first. So just having a good sound education on, you know, math, science, English, which would prepare them for anything at that point. But it was more, I felt they were talking more about, if you know you want to go to college, great, do that. But there's so much more, don't push everybody into college. Because, I mean, everybody knows somebody that's got a degree that they're not even using. Well, I've got a degree, well, great, but what are you doing with it?
The word that came to mind was pathways. And this is coming, I'm thinking middle school and beyond right now. So I have to think about, and I circled the word strong foundations around pathways for the same purpose, right? Like just really ensuring that our core academics are solid as a rock, so that no matter what pathway they choose, they are competitive in achieving whatever it is they want to do. Right, so they're always, I always like to say, you're at the top of the pile. I want you at the top of the pile. I don't want you on the no list. So whichever direction you choose, we want them at the top of the pile. And in order for that to happen, we have to ensure strong foundations in core academics and beyond. And I love all the rest of it too, right? You can't just be academically smart, and you have to have other skills.
For me, it was always thinking of high school and beyond. just the strong foundations part, got me thinking that we have to start with our primary school kids. If they start behind, it's really hard to get caught up. And we have there's benchmark tests. These kids in math and reading that we need to ensure that the tools are available for these kids at a young age to be able to have that choice of, you know, I want to be an astronaut. Well, if you can't do math, you can't be an astronaut. So how do we start them off and build on that as they progress through their schooling career? Or we can even really look at high school. Well, do you want to go to college or not? Well, you're failing all your classes because you don't know what you need to really do.
Yeah, for me, what comes to mind is, yes, I do remember some of the glad, sad, mad, and all those things. And one of the things that resonated in the community was the diversity that we're offering in education to set people, our students up for success in the future. We've already done a great job with diversifying our education to, you know, to our kids. I think not losing focus on that and continuing to learn how to diversify our education to these students will just further set them up for success, because they all learn differently. That's, to me, diversifying or continuing to diversify our education platforms was pretty powerful from the community.
I'm gonna work my way backwards through this. Here, the future success, I know we've already mentioned success for a student is different for every student. We can't just clump them all together. So success for a student is different each way. And what, again, with this standing out to me, the strong foundations, because we have to build the foundation for them to build off of. And if this crumbles, it's all gonna come down on top of them. So we do have to have the strong foundation for them to build off of and grow. Action is going on for growth, not just, okay, we're gonna keep shoving academics towards them, but they have to grow with it. They have to be, it's an action of learning with it. And then gaining the critical thinking. That is huge, no matter what aspect they're gonna go into in life. Critical thinking, bringing that, I don't say bringing it back to the students, but bringing it back around the table for them to be successful in whatever success is for them. So yeah, that's what stuck out with me, and that's.
Just another thought is part of academic excellence has to be positive environment. We think about the testing and all of those things, but we don't provide space, we don't provide, and it ties in with what Ms. Trumbion said about the opportunities that our students have on where do I learn the best? How can I flourish? If we're not providing those environments, we can have expectations all you want. If it's helping teachers with training, with whatever those hows are. If the kids aren't able to build and grow and learn because of the space they're in, we could be doing everything right except for that, then none of it will work.
Yeah, I just want to put this out there too, that in future, success means a lot of different things, and we can unpack that word at a different time, but when we offer diversifying educational options like we are right now, we as a board have to, at least I feel, as if we have a responsibility to ensure that the diversifying options that we're saying yep to, yes to, hold the same standards of strong foundations as any other program that we offer, right? But it's just gonna look different, so it feel different. And so there has to be this assurance around accountability and results for all these programs. And I'm not trying to put pressure on anyone in saying that, because when a new innovation and something new happens, you know, we have to give time for it to grow and learn, we learn with it, right? But the hope is that the rigor is producing exactly what this statement says, right? A strong foundation, a place for them to learn critical thinking skills, life skills, so that they're at the top of the pile, wherever they want to go, right? No matter what they want to do. And so when they choose their pathway, whether they're in this building or if they're in the building somewhere else, that same diploma that they're getting means the same thing to everyone in the community, regardless of the location they got their education in. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
It's really important to me. It's a really hard thing for me to even say because I've done a lot of this work myself personally. But boy, that's a commitment to thinking when we say yes to these programs. And I think we need to be thinking about how are we ensuring that, you know, when we talk about results, that we are really monitoring what matters for the kids who are in these programs in all areas. And it's okay to say, guess what, this one's working great, this one's not working so great, what are we gonna do to adjust? We don't have to throw it out. But it's okay to examine what's working from home and make adjustments. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we see the results. What results, that's what it's all about. It's not about us telling them how to do it, it's about us making sure that this is what it says, and this is that.
Really diversifying platforms is kind of the wrong term. I should have just tied it back to the mission statement. Innovative learning experiences. It's really what it's the same thing said differently. It ties nicely into the mission statement.
Okay, it's great stuff. We'll come back to that when we talk about the next ones, but if it's okay, let's move to number 2. School communities, create safe, welcoming schools where every student feels valued, supported, connected, and empowered to grow academically, socially, and emotionally. When you hear that, and you've heard about the steering committee talking about that, what does that mean to you? What are the first things that stand out? Start somewhere else. Brady's always.
I was thinking of
Oh, Brady, go
how,
ahead.
how we've made strides in that by the, staff getting to know students and picking out students that they feel, are maybe struggling and build a relationship. I think we've done really well, and I think that's a great start.
Tiffany, you have initial thoughts on that? Mrs. Thompson, sorry, we're official meeting spot now.
No, I have to agree with that as far as like the welcoming schools. I mean, if you're gonna look at where the teachers are out there in the morning when the kids are coming into school and the kids are excited to see them and they're getting their high fives and stuff like that. I think of, personally, you don't know what just happened at home or whatever, and they're coming to this environment, we want it to be a positive environment for where they can feel the support and, you know, learn in what they're doing. And so I think, with the different things going on with the teachers and all of that, so I think it's a great thing to make the kids feel included, in it. Um, Got a lot of thoughts rolling around in my head to try to have them come out and make sense. Let me think a little bit more on this one.
Aaron, it's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the steering committee say that.
The thing that really came to mind for me was citizenship was a word tossed around quite a bit. You know, if we can create an environment where they feel safe, supported, and challenged, and can grow, ultimately it leads to citizenship, the growth, contributing adult with values and respect and everything else.
My first thought was similar to Brady's, that it's our people. So first person they see when they walk, well, even before that, if they're on the bus, it needs to start with all visual contacts. And with our referendum having facilities and the environment that kids are coming into makes a difference, because if you have paint flaking off the walls or bricks that are falling or whatever the case is, that's not welcoming or safe by any means. And it's, how do we build within each of our students, I want to go to school, whether it's a connection with a teacher or staff member, or just, I want to go to school because I can eat. They'll give me breakfast and lunch, or if it's because I'm always cold because we don't have any heat there coming to school. Whatever those things are from motivators for each of our students, for us to be able to supply those basic things. But the biggest thing, Greg said, is our people have to have the mindset of, we need to make sure that we're not having any kids fall through the cracks, that all of our kids, we've done a great job here at the shout outs, that these kids are making connections all the way through. And if it's helping our staff to be able to have more time to be able to do that, or if it's helping our kids understand that they can make those connections amongst themselves, there's plenty of different programs that can be talked about on the how-tos. But if we're making good people, good little humans, they're going to start growing that culture as well.
Yeah, if I can just add to, it was Worry, Wonder, Brag, that was the other, right? So under brag and then glad, the mad, glad, sads, the hive mind philosophy and culture and mindset was at near the top or at the top of every single list. People they're excited about it, they're happy about it, they feel that that's part of the culture shift. They feel it's created a culture of inclusiveness among many other buzzwords. I guess thinking more about it under this school communities, hive mind is a great concept. How can we expand it to make that hive mind buzzword and culture that we're creating now really encompass that even deeper, I don't know.
One hive.
If I could go back to the empowered to grow, you know, if you're going to empower a child to grow, giving them that positive, how we mentioned prior to that, just the positive environment. You know, you've got to have that power, that positive environment, because if you think of like little kids and you're always going, oh, that's a great thing, and you know, you're all positive and all excited all about it, they're going to be so energetic about doing it. So definitely empowering to grow would be the positive environment. Yeah, with the hive mind, the one hive,
One hive.
one
I got
hive,
confused.
yeah, one hive, one mind type of thing. I guess what comes to my mind is like back when I was in school, you know, the pep rallies and all of that stuff that just kind of gave the energy of the school, and you kind of felt like you were all one, you know, with different things like that. Or motivational speakers are good to do that positive reinforcement and just making kids feel like, oh, I do have a chance, you know, or I can do this type of thing. Yeah, just the empowerment, giving the positivity to them, that they are valued and we support them and want them to grow.
We're going through these and having things be purposeful. So we're looking at our results expectations being purposeful to fit the pillars. And I think that's something that we all need to do is, okay, why are we doing this? What is the end goal? And if we can join that one hive, we can get our folks all thinking, all the arrows going in the same direction, that's gonna take care of a whole lot of things just on its own. Instead of getting pulled in different directions. You had the different individual schools have their own identities that didn't tie to anybody else. So if you're in one of the two elementary schools, if you're at the middle school, it was different. If you're at the high school, it was different. So then obviously we have students that join the high school that have never been part of the Richland School District. They have a different mentality than coming in knowing that, because they can experience that as a community, even if they're not necessarily within the school district. They can still see that and feel that.
So sure.
The thing that came to mind for me was sense of belonging. And sense of community. And I feel like when I read the statement, create a safe, welcoming school where every student feels, our measures for the results could be valued, supported, connected, and empowered.
Any other initial reactions or thoughts that you've heard regarding that second pillar? All right, how about number 3, exceptional staff? Attract, support, and retain high-quality staff who inspire student success. Want to get it started there? What does that mean to you?
We kind of already went down this road. Just completed our first year of the Distinguished Staff Program, where the staff defined what that program looked like. Not sure we'd have, yeah, I mean, how do you expand on that? I think, I mean, the foundation's there. Maybe it just needs a couple more walls and a roof on it. Because the purpose of that is this right here. It's attracting, supporting, and retaining high quality staff who inspire student success. Correct?
Oh,
That was the whole goal behind creating that program.
as many rock stars as we can.
I know in this sector, it's different than the private sector, where I say it to all the time within restaurants, you're always hiring because you can always improve. You have somebody that just shows up to work and they do the bare minimum. Well, you hire somebody to improve your overall culture. I know it's a little bit different with contracts and such, but are we actively pursuing ways to improve the people that we have? Are we actively looking at teachers around us and trying to lure them with all the other things that we're doing? I know actively recruiting might not necessarily be as acceptable in the private sector, but headhunting type things that, how do we emulate those that we're aspiring to be? And if we have, staff surveys can be useful, but to know that they're feeling like they have the supports necessary to be able to do the other things that we're asking them to do. How do we help them achieve those things? And if they don't necessarily have that skill set, what are we doing to help them gain the skill sets? By having those supports in place.
Anyone else want to go next?
I circled who inspires student success. And I just have a wonder about that. And more on attracting than anything. How do you know, how do you get to that in an interview? Is it something that you're asking questions around, in the interview process? I don't know, it's just a question I'm kind of mulling over in my mind, like when you have candidates.
This is a tough one to stay out of the howies.
We're thinking about attracting folks who inspire student success. It gets really a little muddy there.
Mhm.
And how do you dig through an interview? Somebody can interview great, but they can't perform on what they say they can do or will do.
I really believe in what you just said, though, so staff retainment and, staff induction and retainment require a lot of support and coaching. And so, as one of the 5 pillars, and back to a comment I made long ago, we have to think about how we align fiscally to what the community is saying our priorities are. And nothing that we're not. That's
No,
not what I'm suggesting.
I would take it one step further, and I've said this before too, it's not just fiscally, it's all resources, right? It's money, but it's also time, and then proper people, right? And if you don't invest those things in the areas that are most important to you, you're probably gonna flounder.
And so what is the measure, right? Like, that's the question too. How do we know?
And I have to agree with a lot that was said, and I'm just trying to, I want to say this and I don't want this to come out wrong. Always hiring, how you'd mentioned, like always hiring. And that I feel will inspire some people to achieve higher goals because they know, oh, I'm not hired. Okay, I'm good. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. It's always gonna make them keep wanting to reach those higher goals. But I feel like they have to have the self-initiative in order to want to keep achieving those goals. So as far as, finding that right person and attracting the right person, coachable. I guess that's what I think of a lot of it is You want coachable people that you can coach up and coach up and coach up, and they can be proud of themselves for the achievements that they can make, bringing it forth with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, if obviously keeping your ears open, if there's somebody that is doing quite well in their programs, the rewards are there, making sure the support's there. The one scenario that I was running through my head was you have a wonderful staff person who everybody likes, but the results aren't there. What do you do? Do we keep them because they're a wonderful person, or, okay, we really need this program to explode and take off, so we're gonna have to make some changes. I mean, what, and that's like you said, where you're getting into the hows or the whys. I mean, what are we looking at doing? You know, are you gonna, okay, we're gonna try this program, we're gonna try this program. Well, they're still not catching on, you know. What are we gonna do? I mean, for me, when I say exceptional staff, we've got to have some sort of criteria, or if they're not meeting that, then we really need to start actively looking.
Clear, concise, consistent expectations that are in alignment with our goals.
Yes. And I don't want us just keeping somebody because they're part of the community. That's just one piece of many pieces. And in the end, it's about the students' achievements.
It's kind of back end of what Mr. Umbiano was saying, right? Reward the ones that are really doing well, but then also clean up
Yes.
the other end.
Yep.
Side note here, one of the things that I saw in going through that distinguished staff and reviewing, 40 some applicants and then going through the process over the last couple of years of listening to staff of what makes a rock star, I think it's those last three words. Like, we have a lot of high quality staff, but the really, really special ones are the ones that believe in their students, teacher efficacy, where we know that that's one of the biggest, movers of student achievement, but the ones that truly inspire, those are the great ones. How do we get that to spread, right? That's just, you brought up the distinguished staff, and it made me think about that's really the difference, right? Between your worker bees and your rock stars, right? It's not your content knowledge. It's not a lot of those things. A lot of it's that right there, in my opinion.
There's studies done that if you have higher expectations of people, that you help them get to that expectation. So if you come in thinking, I just got to put in my time today, whatever, instead of actually working with the kids, doing what you can, and it doesn't have to be necessarily the teachers, it can be any of our staff people. Some people who might have the biggest impact could be our janitorial staff. We don't know. But you have to have that mentality across the board that people that are employed here want to make the whole thing better for all of our kids. And how you do that, that's your job, Mr. Board.
I think that connects with this idea of a shared mission. Right. So when everyone who's employed in the district believes in and actively sees themselves as a very important part of the making the vision real, things change. When they don't see themselves as being a critical component of making real the vision, mission, then they feel like they're just content clash. It's the value. It's the word value. But their value is just.
We have two more for question one. Are you okay if we tackle them, or are you calling it a night, or do one more and see, or what do you want to do there, Mr. Bian?
all feel.
You keep going.
Yeah, let's go through these, but the rest of them with question one, then we'll probably call it.
Okay. All right, so pillar 4 is financial stewardship, ensure efficient, transparent, safe, and sustainable district operations that provide high-quality student learning environments and strengthen community trust. That's a mouthful. What does that mean to you? First things that come to your mind with that? Based on what you heard.
Best in our people, our students.
One of the thoughts that comes to mind for me is the community's reaction to the referendum, that we're expecting you to spend the money how you say you're gonna spend it and be fiscally responsible with that expense. There were issues from prior years that if we're given people's hard-earned dollars, that we need to make the most effective use of that resource as we can.
Yeah, this was a tough one. I feel like we already did a pretty good job of this. As far as transparency on our budgets.
But is that what that means to you? To make sure that we're transparent and we're providing all the information? Is that, when you read that, is that what you're
Yeah, I mean,
envisioning that means?
I always say like investing in your people is key. You have to be responsible about it too. I get that. But
That's how I looked at it too. Being fiscally responsible with money, but at the same time, doing the best, making the best decisions with that money they can.
that's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
I think some,
It's been a long day.
You put the words in there.
some of that could be, if we have two different things that we have money to spend on, you can only do one. Which one is gonna produce the best results or be the most effective use of that resource? That, hey, we wanna do something nice and fancy, or we wanna do something that's core and it's gonna fill in, because it has to take care of all of these other pillars.
Mhm.
If it's, we talked about that in the past, with, hey, these are our goals, we have to, how we're gonna spend our money needs to align with those goals. So it's taking the resources that we have, looking at these pillars and the community input and our strategic planning, spend our money towards that.
Yeah, I just heard Aaron
Another way to
say
say it.
transparency is something that we're good at, but when I listened to the presentation, I bet you 3 or 4 times. I don't know why, and you're shaking your head.
I'm shaking my head too, yep.
I mean, I kept on hearing, like, I was very surprised, and this is why, I was like blown away surprised. And I'm still kind of like taken back by what it felt like when when they presented that, like, we're still not feeling informed. Is what, I don't know, did anybody else feel that way? Like, and I was like, okay, that's information, like, I need to know that. Cause we're feeling like we're giving the community and we're being transparent, but that's not being received that way. And it really, or at least that's what I
Yeah, I struggled with that when I kept getting brought up at steering committee meetings. I'm like, posted on the website. Video, it's posted on YouTube, you got board docs with attachments. Like, I, for the life of me, don't know how we can post it anywhere else, you know, like the
I know.
information's there, so I'm at a loss of
I
how
gotta
we
go
can
back
be
to
more
like,
transparent. It's like, short of sharing it on the screen for people that may or may not log in to see the board doc, what else is there to do? Cause it's all there.
And I have to agree, we can't control how they perceive it and how they receive it. But with how we're putting it out there, but one of the things, strengthening the community trust, if we're going to have to go to referendum, have to go to do all this stuff, you've gotta have that trust of the community to be able to back you and support you. And if you have the community at your back, I just feel like it's another push to go upward with this. And the different things that I had underlined here, sustainable. What we go for has to be sustainable. If we want them at the top of the pile, it's gotta be sustainable to keep them there. That's a huge thing to get that high quality being sustainable, and the best way of doing that is being efficient with our money and stuff. And I mean, I just think my whole mindset, when I get up in the morning and I got 5 things to do, what's the most efficient way of getting through all 5 of those things like that? That's my mindset, and that I think we do a really good job with our finances as far as being efficient with them, because we're always looking them over and making sure we do the right thing. But again, strengthening that community trust. Just trying to work on that as much as we can. And again, we can't control how they perceive it and how they receive it. All we can do is just
Are
keep
you sure?
trying.
Are you sure we can't?
Well, we
Are you
could.
sure we can't do some things different?
We
Like,
could.
I know we're gonna sit here and say that there's all 50 things that we're doing. But if what we're learning is those things aren't working, then why aren't we changing it? Why do we keep doing the thing? Why do we keep doing the same thing over and over if it's not working?
But you talk about it all the time, meeting the students where they are, and we need to find out where the community is, and how do we get there instead of them coming to us.
Just because we've always done it that way, just because boards have always done it this way. Doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. I'm pushing back, and I'm gonna push back hard because I've been doing this for 6 months, trying to push back on a lot of these practices because I think we think we're being transparent. I think some of us believe that. I can tell you as a community member, I'm oblivious if I wasn't sitting at the meeting.
Good discussion. That will be a topic for a different time. We'll go back to financial stewardship.
We hear from everybody? I don't know what that means. There's a lot of transparency and things like that. Okay, let's look at the last one. Community connection. What does it mean to you when they say strengthen partnerships with families and the community through meaningful engagement, clear communication, and shared commitment to student success while fostering a foundation of trust in our schools? Similar to a conversation that we just had.
I think some of that is visibility. And part of our conversation when we first started in our conversation about the governance model is how are we as a school district engaged with the other community groups, whether it's church or Rotary or Kiwanis or 4-H or any of those places, that how are we interacting and reacting with those folks? And being in the parade, coming first, being visible. I think that was probably the first time that the school board has ever had a float. So thinking outside the box and it might just be asking more questions, you know. The hows, there's a whole lot of those like the parade, but I think it's just. I think the community wants us to come to them more than us sitting back and waiting for them to come to us. That's how do we engage with families? Because if we're not interacting and engaging parents, we can help the kids as much as we can within our own four walls. But if we don't have a connection with the parents to help carry over some of those things, and be it to actually create a better family environment all the way through. Will these other pillars be able to come through with academic excellence and such? You know, kids don't have supports at home. How do we help foster that?
Expanding the one hive mindset outside the school, the entire community. Comes to mind for me.
Initial thoughts on what that means. And then folks. Or what do you think they meant by it?
I think that's part of it with the strengthening the partnerships with the families. Obviously, they're the ones sending their kids. Fostering that foundation of trust in the school. You know, that they're gonna get a good education, they're gonna be supported, they're gonna be, with that, and I think with the community through meaningful engagement, I think, Mr. Bailey is right with, I think they want us to come to them versus them coming to us, because right now, when, you know, we've got this stuff out there, but the parade was a perfect example. I think that they've never seen that before, and maybe this gets into the house or whatever too, about the community activities that go on, being involved in that, letting them. Somehow we have to strengthen the partnerships with the families. I think we do a good job about clear communication. I don't think we try to do, muddy the waters on anything. I know in the end, we just want success for the kids. We want them to be. Be the best that they can be.
More listening sessions, more family nights. I mean, elementary schools have always done great at that, but as kids get older, that kind of goes on the wayside. You know?
And just thinking of a family standpoint, which probably has nothing to do with, but you know, with the little kids, with their families, they're doing that family night. I wondered if that was still going on. But then when you get to high school, a lot of times the parents and the kids kind of go like this. It'd be nice to kind of go like this.
Yes.
Continue that. Force them together, do some trust building activities.
I don't want you to take this as not an agreement. I'm just trying to get a better understanding. Are you two saying that you believe that the steering committee is saying that we need more family nights? Is that, or are you using that as more of an example? I'm trying to.
I'm using it more of an example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't want to get into the hows and.
No,
you
that's what I was
guys
trying to
figure
figure
that
out is if you.
But just as an example,
Heard from them that that was something that we wanted, or if that was more of
an example.
the illustration. I thought it was the latter. I just wanted.
I was just trying to think of things that involve the whole family.
Mhm.
Right,
That's the how part.
yeah.
I think the feeling that I got was that the community thinks we're doing well. But that this is probably one of the first times that we really sought out their opinions. By having the 2-1 hive events or hive nights. To give them a voice. I think that might be more of what this is looking for. Potentially, it could be what they're looking for is just that the community feels connected to what we're doing instead of it being us and them.
And that's kind of what I got out of when they would come up and they would say, okay, yeah, I came to the first meeting, but I was very standoffish. I had my wall built. I was ready to walk out the door and all that stuff. For the end, they had come back there embracing it and they wanted to be heard and they were. So. It was good.
Sharp, do you have thoughts? It was a clarifying question, but you usually seem to answer what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts, but I'm not sure really where to go with them. You know, just the first half of that first sentence, strengthening partnerships with families and community. If that's, that community connection, if that's the focus, we need to strengthen our partnerships with them. Then the wonder is, where is that coming from? Like, where did that come from? Where's the deficit, right? Where's the gap that we need to fill? So to better understand that maybe, and maybe the PowerPoint will give me a little bit more.
Sure.
But if they feel like we're not partnering with them, in what ways? Through this idea of one hive, right? Can we create this meaningful engagement? You've already talked about elementary does it well. What does it look like in middle high school? And I'm pretty sure that if you said this, if you brought that question to the elementary staff, to the middle staff, to the high school staff and principals, they would come up with some pretty amazing ideas. Right, about them do the how. But just to know that, but it would be good, I think, to get some context around why are they feeling like that? We don't have a strong partnership.
Yeah, that's a good segue to my question, because I know that Mr. Ramban and I sat in on some of the earlier sessions, so I'm not sure if it came from that or if I heard it from them, but did any of you get the impression that some of this was stemming from better partnerships with community businesses and apprenticeships or those kinds of things? Or
I did.
okay,
I got that. I took that from it. I wrote that down. But
it didn't get brought up. That's why I was.
I didn't
asking
want
if
to
anybody-
just sit in my bias around like my experience in high school. But that probably because I was thinking about that in my head while they were talking, and then I probably heard someone say it. I was like, yeah, makes sense to me.
But if you didn't feel it made it into the final plan, I don't want that to go in a different direction.
But I also made a connection between that and I draw a line to academic excellence where it really resonated with me when they emphasized over and over, we don't just want to focus on college. We want kids to explore other careers. And they can do it right here. They can do all of that exploration right here in our community. Kind of thing. So maybe that was part of what was happening in my head.
Part of me just, this almost feels like it's two different things. Because the fostering the foundation of trust in our schools almost feels like it's its own piece. It's some of that might just be coming from some of the earlier discussion. But if you're doing that first part of it, all the way through shared commitment to student success, I would hope that the trust piece is part of that whole process.
Adults. Yeah.
And it could be, and it happens all the time, that something that happened 20 years ago is still eating at somebody. Things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, before most of us were around, that it could still be that, and because this was their first chance to voice it, it's bringing up old wounds kind of thing. And so we might be doing everything better than what we ever had before. But if it's still not addressing that core feeling that they had from 5, 10, 15 years ago. So how do we dig those up and address those as well?
I think that's a valid point. I was gonna bring it up earlier, but I wanted to keep moving on, but one of the things that I noticed from the hive mind, I probably had at least a half dozen conversations with individuals that made that exact point to me. Like when you're talking about transparency and communication, all that stuff, it's better, right? But this has been an issue in the past, kind of a thing. So it is maybe a little bit of both, right? We can do better. We can find ways to improve. We still have to seek their input, but some of it is, I certainly don't want to get to a point where we're just passing the buck. Yeah, we're good, right? We don't want to get to that point, but I do think that there were enough people that made a conscious effort to let me know that it's better to don't fall back into the old ways, right? And we want to make sure that that's very clear. So I think you're spot on.
You know, when we're talking about challenging the kids and then we challenge each other and we challenge us as a board to get better. Just thinking of what had stuck out in my mind on a previous one about gaining critical thinking. And with what Ms. Sharp had mentioned, oh yeah, we can maybe change their view of things. We want to encourage the critical thinking with the kids, but maybe coming back to us with our critical thinking as far as different ways of improving. Like you just said, they're happy with that we've improved, we've gotten better, but we got to start critically thinking on how we can become the best. Challenge ourselves.
Well, I'm certainly okay to take the board's lead, obviously, on this. But if you wanted to continue this at the next time, I would, take a look at questions 2, 3, and 4, and particularly the number 2, like as we go through these pillars, and you'll have a chance to look at the PowerPoint and digest all of that data, but, are there particular ideas within each of those pillars that the board believes we should put a little emphasis on, right? Because it can encompass a lot of different things, and they're probably all right, and they're probably all good. But you can't just, we made the mistake of having 14 priorities 6 years ago. You can't just still do 14 things and cram them into 5 pillars. You're still, you really still have to narrow it down to where is the emphasis. So if you could maybe put some thought into that after you've digested the data a little bit. And then, you know, if that's successful, what does that look like? And then, I don't think I'm ready to start drafting any policies yet, because I think number 4 is also important. Now that we've gathered all of that, what are the key words? What are things that are must-haves in those policies as far as words or phrases that we make sure that I capture in a draft? So, and I can try to draft based on what I've heard, but it feels like there's more discussion to be had here. But again, I'll leave that up to you folks. How you want to go? Or we stay till midnight and just get through it. It's raining out anyway. So I'll turn it over to you and you can. Lead us down a good pathway.
You all good with that? Do the PowerPoint. Keep discussing this next meeting and
I think
nail
it's
it
fair.
down, and then not put any time or effort into drafting any policies this time.
I'll still do the OEs, I think, if you're
Yeah,
comfortable. with
OEs,
that.
but not the Rs.
Yeah.
But not the results, yeah.
I think we need to, we got 2 board members out. Keep going with the conversation.
I think if you try to start drafting policy based on just tonight's conversation, there's so much more
That's what I thought.
that is gonna come out and has to come out for us to get a direction, but I think it'd be a waste of your effort to not do anything now. Plus, obviously, we have the people who need to get their thoughts on it as well.
Are you okay with this general format of these questions? I think this will get us to a place where we can draft something.
Yep.
Okay. Right.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Aye.
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 Okay, stop this, and then I gotta, one quick thing.